Hi everybody, my name is Andy, and coming to you on this almost perfect Monday morning. And I was asked from Sara to share a little bit about myself. We are in this time of being the church, always technically, but I think we're in a series right now of being the church, and she just asked me to share a little bit about myself. And I was really confused because I said, in my head, I'm like, I've lived 38 years of my life. Like, what part do you want me to share? And so I think many of you might know me, you might know of me. You may not have seen me a ton around the church, and you definitely haven't in the last few months because we're not there right now, but we're at home, we're trying to be safe, and we're trying to figure this whole thing out together. And I think for me, I grew up in Wisconsin. I was the first person in my family to go to college, and then after that, I was kind of confused on what I wanted to do with my life, and was encouraged after I had left college in Wisconsin. I came to Minnesota, and one of the things that I think was I think for me the biggest thing that happened is I got plugged into a church out in the Western Metro. And that kind of changed everything. I had built really great friendships, and some of those friendships, were existing from college, but it really got me plugged into the church. And excuse me. And then what happened out of that was I ended up going into seminary, and I think I was really intimidated at the time because I was expecting everyone who was in seminary, they know everything they can possibly know about the Bible. And I felt very intimidated and unsure because I didn't know anything. I was expecting to learn everything about the Bible when I went. And so I didn't learn everything about the Bible in my 5 to 6 years there, but I did learn a lot. And I think for me, in thinking about being the church and what that looks like, and studying scriptures for the time that I did, and trying to dig into it and not just read it on the surface for what it says, because obviously we have a Bible that was written in a very different culture and context and time to certain people at that time. But I think ultimately, what you get underneath it, what is in combination of what the Bible is saying and what scriptures are trying to tell us, what the writers were trying to tell us, and what we're trying to do today in 2020 is being the church that's loving God and loving others. And I mean, you look at what Jesus says in Matthew, he actually quotes his Bible at the time, which is, the Pentateuch, the first 5 books of the Bible. He's quoting, in the moment he's being asked from the Pharisees, they're trying to catch him in a trap, right? Like, what's the greatest commandment? And he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, and your soul. And the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. I did not come to abolish the law, but I came to uphold the law. And that's, to me, when I was in seminary, I wrote this 30-page paper on everything I knew about God, and God is a God of restoration and restoring earth, restoring humans, restoring everything. And at the end of it, I slapped a Post-it note on it to my readers, and I said, listen, you can read this, but if you want, really what I think is love God and love others as yourself. And I said, here's all the gaps that fill those. That meaning and that saying for me is ultimately it all comes down. My most authentic self would say you need to love God and you need to love other people. And we don't know how to do it perfectly. I think the Bible and Scripture shows us pretty clearly how to do that, and it's really it's loving other people. And so that's a little bit about myself in a very small nutshell. But the other thing I guess I would say is one of the things for me that makes Colonial feel different than other churches that I've been at, and I was talking about this with the leaders of the emerging adult group last night, is there's always something that felt different. And I think one of the pieces is in our core values, the wrestle piece. And what I love about that, and I was talking with one of the other folks about it, we were talking about why it's so great is we don't have to always agree on things. We don't always have to, you go to a lot of churches and it's like, this is what we believe, and essentially everyone who goes there believes the exact same thing. So you're basically isolating yourself from the rest of the world and the rest of faith and Christianity. And what I love about Colonial is we don't all believe the same things. And that's okay, because the minute that we think that we know everything there is to know about the Bible, then we either are acting like God, or we think we're God, or we are God. And we know the last one's not true. So I think that is one of the most beautiful things about Colonial. And the people, for the most part, I think have embraced that. And it's really hard right now. We live with a lot of difference in the world. And the reality is we've always lived that way. Like, the whole scriptures talk about people who didn't agree. And they didn't always handle it well. And hopefully we're trying to do better than that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the wrestle piece within our core values, is we get to try to figure it out together, because the truth is we don't all know. So I wanted to add that piece because I feel like that's such a key component to Colonial Church, and why it's been such a gift for me to be able to be there and meet the folks that are there. And it's been fun, and I'm excited to get together when we can get back together and do it safely and do it the right way. And in the meantime, I'll continue to be an introvert and stay at home and be okay with that too.